Hey there, welcome to the shop. I have been writing and taking photos for a new book for like the last month and a half, and I am itching to get my hands dirty. And I figured just break the ice with a fun little project back in the shop. I've got a ton of really great things to start from for a fun little project. Let's get started. There we go. Oh, and in case those aren't enough, I got a whole a bunch more right here. Most of this is like Nerf guns or toys from the toy store that were really cheap. Broken heat gun, actually. 2 broken heat guns. But mostly we have toy blasters in here. And I'm gonna pick one. Got some really fun ones. Actually, this one still has ammo in it. We use this one with Evan and Katelyn. Anyway, a ton of really fun stuff, and I'm just gonna pick through and see if any of them speak to me. So I'm looking for blasters I could sort of start with, like that, but I'm also looking for pieces that have really cool texture or details that I can remove and add to my thing. And there are so many cool things. Look at that, a shower head. Why do I own that? Because it was $1 at Goodwill, that's why. I have a lot of good options, but this is gonna be a quick little build, and I think this guy is really speaking to me. I actually remember buying this at the secondhand store for a grand total of, I think this might have been $1. I just like the shape of it, and I have some pretty good ideas. I think I wanna replace the barrel area with something a little more comical, a little more cartoony. But that's a great start. But I have a couple more things. Some Greeblies and some other additional stuff. There's another one. Basically, I just don't throw anything away so that I have lots and lots of fun stuff here to add to projects just like this. I've got all the pieces I may eventually add to this, but first I need to take some stuff off, and I'm gonna start by dismantling it. Did I get that one? I did now. Perfect. I am not planning on keeping the functionality of this. Oh, that's a separate piece. That's handy. I might keep that separate for painting. I'm going to destroy the internals on this. It will no longer fire a Nerf blaster, but I'm okay with that. It's gonna be more of an art piece. And besides, secondhand stores all around the nation are just full with perfectly functional Nerf guns. All right. Oh, that's actually, this is cool. I wanted to paint these a different color and they're just separate, so no masking required. Oh, not so bad at all. All right, so for my plan, I do want to keep the trigger mechanism there. It's not going to fire anything, but I do want that spring action, so I'll keep that in there. This whole barrel thing is going to go, so I'm not going to use that anymore, but I'm keeping this spring because I'm a hoarder. This can also go. I'm thinking the barrel area, I want it to be this big cartoony, just like slot that like a big energy beam comes out of. So I can just remove most of this, and that should get me close to what I want with this back on there. Oh yeah, that's gonna look really cool. All right, I need to make a little room in the barrel cavity, so I'm going to get rid of that. Trace that out a little bit. And then, let's see, this piece will go over there, and I think I want to remove this guy because I want to have room in there. We're going to be able to see into it, and hopefully there will be a light. That's the goal anyway. Still goes back together. Now I have lots of room for additional stuff. I want to put some lights in here, and I want them to have a place to come out. So these three, I'm going to call them vents. I'm going to remove those, and it should be a really fun sort of overlapping thing with some light coming out of there. So I'm going to go to the rotary tool and start hacking it apart. I've got my light holes good to go, and I want to add some more fun stuff. I've got all these wonderful, it's not trash, some of it was trash, but all of this collection I have. I think I can drill out some more of these details and add something to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to pick out some fun stuff here. I think some of these knobs actually are really good. Some of these are all resin cast things I've used on other projects. I'll see if like that part will look really cool coming out of there maybe. This appears to be the right size. Of course I could drill these holes whatever size I want. Oh boy. Careful. That sounds a little more cracky than I want. Actually, I remembered I have a step bit, which is the exact kind of drill bit you want for doing thin material like this to keep it from cracking. Well, that was way easier. Whee! So some of these are metal, I have real metal parts in here, but most of them are resin cast, and what I did was I made some molds of a bunch of knobs. Whenever I have extra resin, I'll just dump it in there, and I have many extra. I really only want the tip of this resin piece, and I can just cut it with a little saw. I'm keeping that, though, for later. This little guy can go in the hole I drilled, and some of these other ones that I have here can go elsewhere. And now, you know, it just looks a little different, a little bit different than the Nerf. Let's try hot glue. Hey, there we go. I'm starting to think about my LEDs for lighting this thing up. They're gonna go on a little board like this, and I need to cut that to size in there. So to get kind of a good shape of that, I have a fun trick. This is a contour gauge. These little wires here can slide back and forth, kind of like those weird nail toys that you would just smush on your face and it was gross. This works on the same principle. Like so, I can press that in there and hopefully, there we go. This is the profile of that inside face there, or close anyway. I'll cut it out of a piece of paper and check before I commit to carving this thing out. Took a little tweaking, but I got it to fit, and it doesn't need to be perfect either. I'm just going to use it to cut out my little piece of board here. Okay, so I have a very faint outline, and I'm going to make my thing about that big, I think. So I know that this rectangle will fit inside of that. All of that work was just to make sure that this board is going to fit inside the space I have provided in there. I'm going to make another one of these that'll go horizontally for our sides, and then I'm going to put a whole bunch of blue LEDs on them. Yeah, my eyes. lots of progress. I wired up some LEDs. These will go in there once I've painted it. So I'm gonna wait to install these. I do have a great video on putting LEDs in a blaster. I did the Unkempt Herald from Borderlands. Fantastic video with a much more in-depth look at the LED wiring. These guys will go aside for now, and I can move on to some sanding probably. The NERF logos on here gotta go. There's a couple of them, along with the little warnings that they have. Gonna sand all those off because my blaster is not gonna have them. Before I do any painting on this, I still need to make the barrel. I need to fill in this gaping hole that I made. So I used the little pattern here, and I did a little bit of prototyping and figured out basically the shape of a piece that can go in there to block all that off. And then I'm gonna make a new barrel that'll get attached to that. This is just a prototype, so I'm gonna go build all the final pieces. To make the actual protruded barrel part here, I'm going to make a little buck out of MDF and wrap some piece of plastic over it. This is my big old chunk of scrap wood and MDF here, and I'll just go cut that out on the big old bandsaw. The barrel's gonna get wrapped around here, and I'm making it out of this plastic. This is PVC foam. You could use styrene too. I just happen to have a lot of this stuff. So this thin strip here, I'm gonna heat up and just wrap around this whole thing. This will hold this in place while I do my wrapping, I hope. All right, let's do it. Just tapering this so that I can wrap that over it. That'll go in there, but I don't want the front of it to just be flat. I want to add some contours there, and maybe some holes too. Just adding a little decoration and hiding a crime there. You didn't see anything. These are purely for decoration. Boop. We got ourselves a neat little barrel thing. One more test fitting. Hey, I think that looks pretty good. That's fabulous. All right. Actually, now I can paint it. Actually, first, now I can prime it. Boy, the parts look really good once they're primed. And now I can do my painting. I'm going really simple with this one. I grabbed some of my Tamiya paints because they dry fast. And I think I'm gonna go with just like gunmetal on the body of the blaster here, and then some of the other parts I think I'm gonna go with a red, but I wanna maybe do a little bit of metallic, mix up some of this chrome silver in there. And then all of those are just gonna go on with the airbrush. And since I left this in pieces, I don't need to do any masking. My colors went on pretty well. I'm gonna add another special feature to the barrel though. This is a flat black paint I'm gonna airbrush on the end to make it look all carbon scored, like it's been shooting a lot of blaster bolts out of it and it's all burnt up. I have all the base colors of paint down on all of my parts. I think they're looking pretty great. And the next thing I wanna do is start to install everything in here. I've got my lights kind of wired up, but I wanna put in some diffusion so that those lights are nice and pretty. For diffusing all those LEDs, I found this cool textured acrylic plastic. I did some tests and found that if I sanded the back of it there, I'll get even more diffusion. So I'm gonna cut out some small pieces, but before I do that, I'll sand it. A lot easier to sand this big piece than tiny little parts. To put diffusion in this barrel, I'll just trace it and then I can cut that out. Hopefully it'll fit perfectly. So that's that piece. And then I'll need a couple more to go under here. Here's a piece of that acrylic, and it needs to cover those 3 holes that I made. So that'll go in, yeah, it looks fine. It'll go in like that, and then hot glue is gonna be our adhesive of choice today. And all I need to do is put hot glue on my finger, and then just tack it in place. It just needs to stay put. This fella goes in here. And it's really snug in there, so just a couple little dollops of hot glue should hold them. That might be the first time I've used the word dollop to describe anything other than sour cream. Time to install my new barrel. I'm gonna put this in there on just this side. I have my electronics here and I'll get to those in a minute. They're also only gonna be attached to this side of the gun so I can still clamshell it open and closed. So this, which I've fitted really well, I'm just gonna tack down with more of this delicious hot glue. Get it right where it's supposed to go. And, oh, it wants to stay, very nice. Here's my circuit with all my lights on it. I just wired everything together. It's a very simple circuit. All these lights are in parallel. I have a 3-volt battery down there and I have a switch so I can turn it on and off. Nice and simple. I went and sanded the ends of these LEDs flat. That should make them diffuse a little better. This part I think is gonna go in there. And to make sure it's kind of in the right spot, I'm gonna use foam, EVA foam, because what can't EVA foam do? A little hot glue. And I wanna make sure I don't cover the area the light needs to go through. So make sure this is low enough. And now I can glue this little board I made exactly where it needs to go. Just about like that. This will face forward and also get the hot glue treatment. In you go. I realized my foam's probably gonna block some of those LEDs. I didn't plan this really well, but I bet it'll still look really cool. Up next is my switch, and it is definitely a little too proud. The sliding part would clip it when it slides over there. So I made a little, I guess it's a washer or a spacer, just a piece of styrene plastic that I can glue together so that it's flush, but I can still push the button. Careful not to get any hot glue in the switch. There's no coming back from that. Ask me how I know. A little bit there. Try not to get any hot glue on the switch. Everything still works. All right. My battery hole is on the other side, so I do need to sort of bridge the gap between these two things. But it shouldn't be too tedious, too much of a problem. I just need to hold this in a spot where it's not going to interfere with the sliding thing. Just bathe the entire area in hot glue. And of course, since I'm incredibly impatient, I can use a can of compressed air to cool that down really fast. I forgot to paint that. But don't worry, we can finish it and it'll look really nicely quickly using aluminum tape. Let's see how this is going to work. This doesn't all need to be covered, so, but I can just sort of, actually, let's do that. There we go. I can just sort of wrap it around, and wherever it stays, whoop. I may have to do a couple of layers. There we go. We can do a little burnishing with the end of our X-Acto handle here to get everything nice and flat. I think that'll work just fine. There we go, just like that, and hopefully when I close this, it'll stay there. And it did, and it's a little snug now. Some additional material in there. I might have to sand on the inside of there to get that to go a little smoother, but look at this. This all fit, and my lights still work. Oh, this is exciting. I'm gonna tweak that and then we can start putting the whole thing together. I sanded and oiled the slidey parts there so that hopefully we have a bit less friction. And then I can put this together, but I have to install the spring here for the slide here. And that kind of goes like this. This should go over that. Oh, what have I done? That should probably go under there. There we go. This way, when we pull on this, it'll slide forward. And now I should be able to clamshell everything together for the last time. And I should probably put that in because that'll get covered. And then this, I need to make sure that lines up with that. Now this can get screwed together. There we go. Test the sliding. Ooh. And there's my on-off button. And there's my battery. I think that's pretty elegant. Pew pew. These should be the last part to put on. Ooh. Satisfying click. Hey, all right. It is time for one of my very favorite parts, the weathering. I've got some brown and black acrylic paint. Just gonna do a simple wash here, cover it all, and then wipe it off. While I'm working on this, I need to thank the members of our Extra Credit Club. We have a link down in the description if you want to join. It's great, full of wonderful people who help support what we do. We do vlogs every week. We do project discussion videos every week, all over on Patreon and on YouTube. And again, you can go to the link down below to see how you can join. And we thank everyone for helping us out. This is a very simple wash here, but it does so much to help bring out all the texture on this cool model. NERF always does a great job of adding like this texture and stuff. These layers of detail, and the paint gets caught in there and just helps highlight all the wonderful modeling on this toy. I am pretty happy with how that weathering turned out. Now I want to do a little rub and buff just to call out some nice shiny spots. These little, I don't know, round details, I'm going to paint those silver. I want to mask them with a little tape, and I'll punch a hole in it with my leather hole punch. A perfect circle. We'll just do that again over here. Hey, look at that. So that can go over there. A little rub and buff. Like that, and just rub it and buff it, and then peel this off. And we have a really nice little screw head there, and I'll just do that on the rest of them. There we go. Oh, how good does that look? Oh, that's cool. Hey, while I've got you here, if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button and the bell, because we make a lot of these videos and you really don't want to miss them. We have a lot of fun projects planned for the rest of this year, and I hope you join us for those cool projects. Well, that was really fun. And my lights, they still work. And just like that, a Nerf gun I had laying around and some spare parts, a couple lights, and I was able to pull off something pretty darn cool. On the first try. Perfect. This is all just gonna rest there. Oops. Doing great. Pretty happy with how that weathering pretty happy with one more time. I'm pretty happy. Just in general. Meep.